and I had this overwhelming reality. Oh, I can get emotional. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ooh, you did that. That came out of nowhere. There was a 911 call made from my room. I did not make it. I did not make that call. We're working through.
There's a spirit in the room.
Metaphor for dark versus light, I'd say right there.
You obviously have been working with the FBI for quite a long time,
Right.
helping.
One specific agent for 25 years.
Hey, I'm Liz Volpe,
And I'm Diane Driscoll,
and this is Spiritual as Fuck.
where spirituality meets the real world.
Welcome back, John.
Thank you for having me. It's
It's
been a
been a
while.
few years,
Yes.
hasn't it?
Yes. Nice to see you.
Oh, lovely to see you as well. And now I have to say that since we last met, I've learned quite a few new things about you.
Okay.
One of them, actually, which I already knew, is that you share the same birthday as my mum.
Okay.
Am I allowed to say this on air?
October 19th.
Yeah, there we go. And you can send John cookies because I know that he likes those. Or cakes, maybe, chocolate. You obviously have been working with the FBI for quite a long time.
Right.
Helping.
One specific agent for 25 years.
25
Over 25 years.
That's
Yes.
pretty crazy.
Yes.
And that was a shock when I actually saw you had a book coming out. I'm like, wait a minute, I have never heard you ever mention something like that before.
So I think my favorite part about the book being released was Christine, who was a producer on Crossing Over, called me up and said, dude, you had your butt handed to you like day in and day out when we were doing Crossing Over, and you could have just whipped out this fact that you were doing this. And I said, no, I couldn't. I said, because we made a deal. I asked him, when he asked me to help him, I said, I'll help you, but you need to keep my name out of everything. And he said,
What?
that's not a problem. I want to keep my job.
So you literally just didn't tell anyone.
We did not. I mean, my wife knew,
Yeah.
and a few, people around him knew. But no, we kept it really quiet. And
That's
when I was
crazy.
doing Crossing Over, I had severe death threats. We had some severe security stuff that was going on. So when he showed up at the studio a couple times, perfect cover. People were like, oh, he's there because of the death threats. He's there because of this.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay, and we'll get to the book. But the third thing, which was definitely the most mind-blowing for me, you used to be a ballroom dance instructor.
Yes, that's how I met
I
my...
ballroom dance,
'Stop it.
25 years. I'm
Really?
gonna have to waltz with you afterwards.
Okay. So I met
Can
my...
you still dance?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I met my wife that way.
Did you?
She was my teacher.
Was she?
Yes. And she will tell you that she wasn't allowed to fraternize with me. So therefore she had to marry me.
Brilliant. So how long did you dance for?
So the way this came about is my entire family has been like a dancing family. Like that just
No
my
way.
mom's side of the family parties and dancing. It was like kind of like normal.
Yeah.
And I truly believed I was a really good dancer without any instruction because of the family that I was born into. So as much as they like the psychic stuff, they like to party and dance as well. Well, there was a psychic fair that was overbooked with a ballroom dance competition that my wife was running. So I
Oh,
walked in to
that's
go lecture at a psychic fair. And when I walked in expecting to see like books and crystals, instead there were like women running around in like skimpy costumes and sequins. And I was like, what is going on here? I'm in the wrong spot. And I walked into the ballroom and I watched the competition happening for 5 seconds. And somebody walked over to me and gave me a card for the studio. And I threw it in my appointment book and I went and did my lecture and I left.
Mm.
So that was in February of 1992. And then the next month, I had a really, really difficult run of like schedules and readings. And I was like really busy. And I was like taking a lot of credits in college, still finishing up almost what was going to be a master's degree. And I just needed to have fun. And I wasn't having fun. And I
Yeah.
took my appointment book and I was like, I need to have fun. And I tossed my appointment book and out popped the card.
Oh,
And I was
look at
like,
that.
so I grabbed the card, I called up, and Sandra was the one who I got booked with. And I did that I was a student for about a year and, competed as a student pro-am. And then I couldn't afford the dance lessons. So
It's expensive, right?
it's a tuition is what I tell people.
Yes.
They're not dance lessons. It is a tuition.
Yes.
That frame of reference is important if you're going to go, but it's amazing and everybody should go. In order to stay part of her world, I went to a different studio and I kind of like, I didn't really get paid, but I worked as a professional where I was the professional. And I danced with some students and I loved it. It was a great form of exercise and release. And I think I miss it more than she does. I
It's so
haven't
good,
I haven't
right?
danced since like 1998.
Oh my
So
goodness.
it's been a while, but
So the question is then, are you going to be seen on Dancing with the Stars anytime soon? Now we've spoken about this.
that's so funny. So my publicist here, she wants me to do Dancing with the Stars Australia. She's like, it is my determination. I was like, I don't know if that would be fair. She's like, but they have dancers on now. I was like, I don't know.
No, you have to now. All right, well, we're going to pull some strings. Let's get
What's
you
your favorite
on.
dance?
Oh, I mean, I love Latin, honestly. But I
Same,
like a good waltz. What's your
same.
favorite?
Mostly the Latin.
Yeah.
Probably Cha Cha Rumba.
Oh, yeah, ta-ta. Can't be a ta. Oh, there we go. Look, something in common straight away.
Enough with the interview. Let's not.
Yeah. So from ballroom dancing,
Yep.
had a thought before, like you've probably got the craziest resume in the entire world. You've gone from being, you are one of the most famous psychic mediums in the world. You've done ball dancing, you've worked with the FBI agents, and you've done the TV show. You've done everything, right? It's pretty
Yes.
crazy.
Yeah, I was a phlebotomist. I worked in a laboratory, and I also worked in a hospital. That's what my career was. My career was working in a hospital.
Wow. So you're really kind of going on the journey.
I was a total Libra, not sure which direction I was going, but I never thought I would do this as my job.
Really?
No.
So it kind of chose you.
It definitely chose me,
Mm.
but I always say if there wasn't a Sandra, there wouldn't be a John Edward, because Sandra was the person who said, "You are killing yourself working like kind of two full-time jobs." She's like, "You're working at the hospital full-time." She's like, "You're doing readings full-time." She said, "And you're trying to like stay part of my world by doing at night you're doing the dancing at a different studio." She's like, "Why don't you just leave the hospital?" And I remember thinking like, "What is wrong with you? Who would say to their husband, leave the job that like provides you with security to do something that, is kind of on the fringe?" We're talking like 1995.
Yeah.
So this isn't like, now. This was 1995. So she gets the full credit for how all of this wound up developing because she had that support. So
She backs you.
yes,
That's pretty cool.
100%. So
Wow.
she is the bedrock and the foundation of how I was able to do what I do.
Oh, amazing. Let's go on to your book because I finished it and I literally binged it. Like a week would not put it down. The kids were getting really angry because I'm reading the book instead of making them dinner. It was super interesting. And from the book, I came up with so many questions. And I'd like to start kind of near the beginning
Sure.
because you co authored this with FBI agent Robert Hilland.
Yes.
And he was, as I'm guessing, like most FBI facts driven people are, I guess he didn't necessarily walk into meeting you as a believer.
Oh no, he definitely walked in as a non-believer. Let's just he
Let's
walked in
clarify.
as a non-believer,
Yeah.
with a 1% of, let's say,
And what I found interesting was that he'd brought you kind of all of these items that were connected to a cold case, and you were able to kind of sift through them, know which ones were connected, and firstly, which ones were just kind of ones he'd thrown in there for the sake of it, which is pretty amazing. But the interesting thing for me was when you then started to connect with his grandparents and deliver him a message. Now, I was bawling my eyes out during that. But I suddenly thought, when you meet someone that's might, be a non-believer, is it your spirit guides that step in and kind of automatically bring someone forward to give a message? Or do you have like a split second thought, I need to actually ensure that he's believing here because I need to get all of this other really important information through to him?
no, I have to say there was no need to try to prove anything, but I was it was a night of readings, and he was one of the people that I was slotted in to work with.
Ah.
And he had heard me on the radio. I do a lot of morning radio, and I was doing calls on the radio. And he heard me multiple times on the radio station in Manhattan, and he took it upon himself to say, "Not cool, not okay. I think this man is taking advantage of people, and I want to try to like expose this if I can." So he came with a real legitimate case. He brought real evidence, as per my assistant at the time, saying like, bring stuff that's connected to the case. But he then went around the office and asked women for items that belonged to them that had nothing to do with the case. He included that in the evidence bag, laid it out on my desk. I was able to discern what was part of the case, what wasn't. And then I think that piqued his interest. But then he said, "Well, can you do your thing?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you take calls from people. Can we call the missing woman's daughter and see if she comes through?" Sure. So went to my phone, called the woman. I didn't really get a lot of information on her because I wound up reading for him. And that's what wound up happening. And there was information that came through that he was able to validate. but there was a lot of information that he had to have his parents validate. So that post-validation moment, because he's a man of evidence and facts, he recognized that there's no way that I would know what I knew because he didn't know it. And it's not something that was public knowledge. So it wasn't something that, you could find out. And his parents validating that, I think kicked the door open for him.
Yeah.
And from that, he became a seeker and an explorer. And that's what I encourage people to be. Be a seeker, be an explorer. Because when you're a seeker and explorer, that leads to discovery. When you have discovery, it raises your awareness. When you have an awareness raised, you can put things into action, and that's how we all evolve. And then he said, can you help me? And I normally would say no. Like I normally would say no. But I said yes. And I kind of felt like, okay, yeah, I'll help you, but I want you to keep my name out of everything. And he said, I want to keep my job. So that's how that started. And it's interesting because my dad was a New York City police officer. And he was not a fan of the subject matter, to the point that he said, do not besmirch my name and make sure I never find out you're working with the police.
Wow.
So I jokingly say I jumped right over the police and went to the FBI.
Yes.
But I didn't solve anything. And that's what I tell people. In the same way that a client can come to me and they're grieving and I bring through their relatives, and it can be very, very accurate. I can't fix their grief.
Yeah.
I can just do my job and bring them information. What they do with that, they get the credit for that. Bob solved his cases. He just utilized information, and that helped him on his journey of doing what he does. So I will say openly, I didn't work for the FBI. I worked for a different 3-letter organization called the BOB. I work for Bob.
He sounds like a good person to work for.
He's an amazing man.
Yeah. And I love through the book the relationship that you kind of build and the trust, that builds. And yeah, you definitely see that he suddenly becomes really open to things where he has spiritual experiences, actually, doesn't
Yes.
he?
I think like the backbone of the book is this awesome spiritual journey that he goes on, and getting a chance to watch that unfold and getting a chance to be a part of that and see him going from this very black and white, 7 foot tall guy to being really, really open to recognizing lessons and spiritual lessons and looking at things through a different lens. So it's kind of cool.
It's good because I'm hoping that you might get a different type of person reading this book because it is about true crime, that you might open the door to go on that type of journey. Have you heard from people that have read the book that are, starting to look at things a bit differently?
I have. We've had a number of people that, whether it be at the book signings that we've done or, emailing in, talking about how they read it and then their husband read it. They read it and then their father read it. So it's bringing about a new audience, which is great because it's giving people the opportunity to come to the subject matter in a way that is objective and evidence-based and fact-based, which is what medium should be: evidence-based, fact-based, and validations.
Yeah. And I love it, right? Because we're talking about the FBI and spirit guides on the same page.
Right?
You don't find that
It's
everywhere.
kind of crazy, talking about smelling perfume from a victim that they used to wear, and that was a wild moment that he had. He was freaked out by that.
Can you share that?
So I don't want to give too much away because I want people to read it, but let's just say that Bob, had a very, very intense spiritual experience by himself in a hotel room where he knew what he was smelling, but he didn't know what he was smelling. And he wound up calling the daughter of the missing person and said, did your mom wear a very, very heavy perfume? And they said, yes. What was the scent? And whatever the scent was. He then did his own investigation. He went to a department store. He went to the perfume area of the department store. And he basically said, I want you to pull out 5 different perfumes, whatever the number was. And I want one of them to be this, but you can't tell me which one it is.
Oh, wow.
And he was able to pick out the woman that's missing, the deceased woman who's missing's perfume, by recognizing the same scent or smell that he smelled alone in a hotel room.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it kind of freaked him out.
Yeah. And I
But
feel like we all have those experiences, don't we?
all do.
I've had a few of those
Yep.
walking down the supermarket aisles and smelling my grandma's perfume.
Yep. We've all had moments that stop us and make us go, okay, that's a little,
What was that?
that's a little weird. Like, why am I smelling that? There's no reason for me to smell that.
Yeah. You consider it for a few moments and then you're like, okay, get on with my day.
And the reason why is when you have an olfactory moment, it triggers a memory. So,
Yeah.
and food does that. Like, there have been moments like I'll be walking around, let's say, a mall or a place, and, they've got some type of baked pasta. And all of a sudden, I am in 5th grade walking through the elementary school again because it's the same smell,
Yeah.
right? So it triggers a memory and takes you back to a place. So smells will do that in a very, very big way.
Let's talk about your spirit guides because
Okay.
I love your reference of The Boys,
Yep.
the Motley Crue.
Yep.
Can you tell us about them?
So when I first started, they referred to themselves as the Council of Elders.
Ooh.
Yeah, they were part. Well, they referred to themselves as the Boys, but they told me they were part of something called the Council of Elders, and I didn't know what that was. I just was like, okay. I never read it in a book. I never saw it anywhere. I couldn't find it anywhere. And back when I started, there was no internet that you can look up. Council of Elders. And then I was reading. I want to say it was Shirley MacLaine's book El Camino.
Hmm.
She wrote a book about the Camino, and she talked about guides being part of the Council of Elders. I remember landing in San Diego. We were landing in San Diego when I read that, and I had this moment of like I was by myself, and I wanted to turn to the person to be like,
Tell everyone.
"Oh my God!" I was like, "No, this woman's gonna think you're batshit crazy. Like, keep it to yourself." But it was a very, very weird moment when I saw that written in a Council of Elders written in a book. So it's kind of cool.
Yes.
But that's my main team of energies. And then in August 5th of 2012, a new level of guide came in, and they came in talking about how they're kind of more the bigger picture teachers.
Yeah.
And it was about helping to raise the vibration on the planet about humanity, community, and unity,
Ooh.
because they felt that the global population was being plunged into a negative, lower vibrational frequency. And that was in 2012. And I remember thinking okay, that's a weird, I've never gotten a message like that in such a big way, small ways about a client or about my family or something kind of local,
Yeah.
but not like this big global type of, this is who we are and this is what we're ushering in, and you have to incorporate this into your message and your work. I'm like, how do I do that?
What a responsibility.
But seriously, how do I do that? I wasn't on television. I didn't have a platform. So I did it in whatever way I thought I could. And I wrote a book called Fallen Masters. So Fallen Masters really was the answer to them coming in, where I talk about different frequencies in the battle versus, good versus evil. And this book kind of comes into the battle versus good versus evil. But I think that we're all kind of facing that internal battle of positive versus, negative. And I think using a platform, even like this right now, to talk about where are we as a society in the world and how apathetic have we become spiritually to other people's plights. And then there's a moment where we talk about stuff like this where people get triggered. And the reason why they get triggered is that whether it be mainstream media or social media or the biases that people have get kicked in.
Yeah.
And it becomes whataboutism. And I just sit back and I watch and I say, when the person's done doing what they're doing, when we're having the conversation, I just say, well, now that you got yourself all riled up, nothing in the world has changed. You still feel the way you feel, and things need to shift. So how do we do that? Right? We do that by putting the unity and humanity and community first. And I always say at my events that the litmus test, if you want to know somebody's on the right side of history or the wrong side of history, is who's putting community, unity, and humanity first.
Oh, I love that.
That's your litmus test. So if your God, your politics, your teacher, your whomever is not putting that in the forefront, and it's my team, my religion, my people, my abilities, my ego, wrong side of history.
Absolutely. And I love that for the perfect segue, because the good versus evil thing really got me thinking, actually, because you specifically say in the book that, and you say to Bob, I have this feeling that there is an evil energy that is going to be kind of trying to stop things for you, alter things. And I was like, wow, I wonder how often do we walk through the city, go to work, and we're walking past evil? Like, is this something that we're all experiencing?
Absolutely. Which is why I think it's important for us to pay attention to the world of energy and to program it in a certain way. So if we leave our doors open, if we leave our windows open, if we leave things unlocked, then we're not even creating a barrier to somebody that could be an intruder coming in, right?
Yeah.
So we put alarm systems in. We lock our doors. We put cameras out. People have cameras to pick up or detect people walking. So we do little things like that to kind of ensure some level of security. We need to do that from an energetic standpoint. So anybody that's watching your podcast who's a fan of energy, if they're a healer, an astrologer, whatever they do, psychic, medium, you got to protect your energy.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's this dark, negative, evil, trickster energy. how about your clients just in a bad spot? You don't want to take on that energy because now that energy is going to take you someplace else. I saw a great video on either Instagram or TikTok, and it was how we pass things on. So it was like a person who had an argument, and when they were done, the guy took this black ball and handed it to the person. And then that person went someplace else. And how that negative energy affected them. And then when that interaction was done, then that black ball was handed to that person. And it shows how we interact with people and how we can leave them with this yuck energy, which then now becomes contagious to somebody else. So I was a big fan of the book, What the Bleep Do We Know? And I was a big fan of the documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know? And I encourage people to go find that
Yes.
or watch
Great.
that
Great
because
film.
what we think we create, we project, we manifest. And I think it's really, if you look at the work of Dr. Emoto about how he programmed the water with the crystals, and if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to tell you. I want you to go watch it, like homework. But our body's made up of water. So if we're telling ourselves negative thoughts, then we're creating negative energy for ourselves. So regardless of what we're going through, whether it's a loss of a loved one, if it's a divorce, if it's a parental alienation, if it's a friendship split, whatever it is that you're navigating that's creating some type of chaos, confusion, calamity, conundrum, whatever it is that you're working through.
There's a spirit in the room. Yeah, you can do. It's a good moment. Yeah, sure.
Metaphor for dark versus light, I'd say right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has. So regardless of what the issue is, we have to be responsible for only driving our car. We can't drive somebody else's. So if we are responsible for driving our own car, that means that we're going to practice defensive energy as opposed to defensive driving. So it's not to be antagonistic. It is not to be confrontational. It is to just go, I want to protect my energy in the same way that I'm protecting my car by going click, click, or I'm putting my alarm system on, or I'm checking my, cameras at home security wise. You want to make sure you're checking your energy and you want to have healthy boundaries. So I think that's the important thing. And if you start having small, healthy boundaries within your friends and family, then that stops them from crossing lines.
Yeah.
And then in a bigger way, you're now not projecting out the negative energy wall, you're projecting out a positive energy. And if you can leave people better than you find them, I think then we've done our job.
What's your tip? How do you protect your energy?
I'm a really good blocker.
Are you?
I'm a really, really, really good blocker.
Block it all.
Like I even have a favorite blocking meme. Ellen Barkin was on some type of show, and they have a meme of her that's her going like this to a phone and like turning away, and it says blocked. Like I'm like that in life. Like if something's not positive energy wise, I remove it from my. I'm like I don't want to be part of that.
It's so important, isn't it?
Listen, it's taken me a long time to be able to get there in the way that I can get there now. I was more of a scrappy, feisty person in my 20s, into my 30s, maybe into my 40s. But seriously, I feel like not engaging. There have been so many debates that I've had with other practitioners where they would say, I don't think you should block people when you have social discourse. I think you should have conversations about differences of opinions and all. Absolutely not. Block. Zero. I'm never going to see you in real life. I don't know you. Why am I going to let you come and pee in my pool? No, no, no. Block.
Yeah. And I think when you're doing what you're doing, you really need to be hardcore with that.
Yeah.
Right?
No, I mean people that I might be in my circle
Normal people.
as well. I'll
Yeah.
just be like, yeah, this is not really working for me. So I'm going to just politely remove myself from this, whether it be friends or family. I've done it. I've
And
literally
that's
done
what
it.
people find hard, isn't it? It's when it's the really close friends, the family, and they're going through something, and before you know it, you're the person that they're sharing, dumping everything on. Do you just literally come out and say something like, I can't do this with you right now?
I have.
Yeah.
I have. But it's usually not to sound callous. I'm not callous. I'm compassionate with people. But if you've given somebody information and if you've said to them, hey, this is going to be an issue for you, and you've warned this person, this is going to be an issue for you, and you've seen self-sabotage happening, and then that person has the information, yet chooses to still go down the path where they've been told this is going to be an issue for you, that's no longer my issue. I've done my job. I've tried to help. Now that's their choice because it's not something that's happening to them. It's something that they're choosing. So that applies to everybody. not just me, that's anywhere. So if you could only help somebody as much as you can, whether that's with a client, like I've had a client that I literally from my early days at the Psychic Fair days that I jokingly fired. And she's like, "What do you mean you're firing me?" Because every 3 or 4 months she would come and she would sit in front of me and she would want to know, you know, in a 15-minute Psychic Fair reading, she would want to know if her boyfriend was going to leave his wife. And
Oh,
after, no joke,
ouch.
no joke, after like a year and a half of sporadically having to look at the same thing, I finally just said, "I need you to come with me." And she's like, "Where are we going?" And I walked to the front desk and I was like, "I don't know if we have like a band list here." I go, and they like, "We don't." I go, "Well, we do now." And she's on mine.
Oh.
And the woman looked at me and I did it with a smile. I was like, "I really appreciate you." I go, "But it's a waste of our time." I was like, "'Cause what you're asking me is never gonna happen." And about 6 months later, I was sitting in the same room and I wasn't reading. And as I'm sitting there, I kind of felt like somebody was staring at me and I just kind of like looked over and she was sitting at somebody else's table and she
Oh,
was
was
like,
she?
she's like waving at me. And then she was like, "I'm here," you know? And I just mouthed to her, "Not going to happen." Because sometimes people just want to hear what they want to hear. So even with clients, you have to do that. And I'll do that with clients that, like I'm reading, I will say to them, usually with parents who've lost kids, I want them to know, don't externalize your grief, meaning don't externalize your communication that you have to go to a medium to connect with your son or daughter. Like the medium gets in the way of what's already there. Work on what's already there. Work on your connection directly. Because if you have to go always to a different medium, I think the healing gets stunted.
Mm.
So I always want parents, like, I'm not saying don't go for a reading, but don't go for a reading often. And when I say often, I mean like once a year. I mean like let time go by because you want to have your own direct connection, your own direct relationship. Because then when you do go for that reading, it's going to be to fortify what you already know, as opposed to, I hope that they're okay. It's like, no, I know they're okay and they're with me and we have a relationship. Not that it's nice not to hear the validations. I love the validations myself when somebody reads for me or somebody gives me information. Love that.
And I love that about you, actually, John, because you deliver these life-changing messages. I mean, I can't even imagine how many lives you must have changed just with the incredible information that you pass on.
Thank
But
you.
you always give people the opportunity to develop themselves and you give the signs and the tips. And I think that's so important.
Because it's not about the medium.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not about the medium. So whether it be, you know, my psychic fair days and learning about ego there, which was a crash course, I'll
I
say,
bet.
crash course, you know, or, you know, moving through now 4 decades of doing this where we have social media and anybody can say they're a psychic medium, Sue, psychic medium, Joe, psychic medium, whatever, and give philosophy as information. It can't be about ego. It's got to be about the process. You know, I'm a student of the universe. As long as I'm doing this work, I am a student of the universe who may teach what they know, but I'm not a master teacher. I'm not a master psychic. I'm a guy who's been doing this work for 4 decades. I can teach what I know. I could share what my experiences are. When people ask me questions and I have nothing to back it up with, I'm like, this is not my arena. Let me direct you to who might better be able to handle near-death experiences. It's not my forte. I had an invitation on to do another TV show, and they were like, "You're the guy. We want you because you are the guy." And blah blah blah. You've done television, and they were great. They put a big pitch together, and I said, "What's the show?" And they said, "We want you to host our near death experience show." I said, "I'm not your guy." And they said, "No, but you have the credibility and you know the track record." I said, "Thank you for that. I need you to trust me. I am not your guy." And they
Mm.
said, "Why?" I go, "Well, near death experience is when they go to the afterlife and come back."
Yeah.
I go, "You want a scientist?" I said, "Maybe like a Dr. Eben Alexander, somebody who's got like letters in front of their name and after." I go, "I'm the guy you want when they go there and stay. Like that's when you want me."
So on that, what happens when we die?
So again, I can only tell you what my experience is.
Mm.
And I believe that when we leave the physical body, it's kind of like this water evaporating out of this glass. It still exists within the universe that we all exist in. We
Mm.
just can't see it in the same way. It's in the liquid form here, but it goes into the gaseous form. So we vibrate at a higher frequency. So I believe that our consciousness is kind of like helicopter blades. If it's in the physical world on the ground, you can count the blades. But when it's elevated, right,
Mm.
you can't see the blades.
Yeah.
But we know they're logically
It's a
there.
good analogy.
So if we can get to the place of knowing that our loved ones and friends are logically there, even though we can't see them, But if you were to go stand underneath that helicopter, you would feel the force of that. And in that example, the force is love and connection. And if we allow ourselves to open up to that, we can feel that. Hence, not needing a medium. But I believe that we're met by family members and friends when we cross. I believe that nobody ever passes alone, meaning that they may be alone in the physical world and maybe people weren't able to get to be there with them. And for those people, I want to assure them from working at a hospital and being at bedside when people are passed, as well as doing readings for the last 41 years, people come for us. So there's not a person that's going to pass alone. Sometimes it's our pets. Sometimes it's people that have gone on, many, many years earlier. Sometimes it's people you'd be surprised about. But yeah, nobody ever passes alone. So don't feel, oh my God, I failed them because I wasn't with them when they passed. Instead, I want you to hold to what I'm saying, what I'm telling you. Like, I want you to know that there's always people that come for us.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Has there been a reading that has even surprised you? Because I mean, you've done so many connections. Has there been that connection that was like, whoa, did that just happen for you?
I think there's moments in all readings that are like that, where I want to hope that there are moments like that in all readings, to be honest. Not everyone has that. Not every reading for me is that, but I I want those moments because that means that as a student, I'm pushing the envelope and I want to get better and better. Like I think I'm more accurate today than I was 25 years ago. So for me, it's like I'm hoping that moment is coming next.
Yeah.
Like I want that. Like I want the next moment, and I feel like I'm only as good as my last reading. So it's like today's an okay day. It's good.
Oh,
Some days are better than others. It's like wow, that was like really great. But I don't really go to that spot because it's not about me doing it. And I use the analogy that I'm like a printer. I'm not the computer. The printer only knows what's being sent through it. That's all I am. I'm just the printer. I'm energetically printing out what they're sending through. So I'm.
You're a pretty important printer, though, aren't you?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Hopefully, it's it's an accurate printer.
A very accurate
Sometimes
printer.
with color, sometimes without color, but
Oh, I love it.
sometimes the paper jams.
Do you ever find that when you've got personal things going on, you find it harder to make connections, or you've got a little bit of something in the way, or not?
No, sometimes it's a complete escape. I have to tell you, there've been moments
Ah.
where I've gone through, my own personal chaoses, and like my mom's death or whatever. There was a great escape. Like it was almost like stepping outside of my own life and finding purpose in this. It is my passion. This is my passion. Somebody asked me, "Is like, will you ever retire?" I was like, "I don't think so. Like, I love what I do." Like, and they said, "Well, what if you won the lotto?" I go, "I would still do what I do. I love what I do."
Born to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I'm going to completely shift the focus here.
Okay.
Are you
Uh-oh.
ready for this?
I'm ready.
We're all watching Mr. Donald Trump release all of these UFO files, aren't we? What are your thoughts on this?
So I'm gonna take him off the table from a standpoint because I might vomit if I don't. Um, Seriously, I believe that there's other intelligent life forms. I
Yeah.
think it's foolish for us not to think, or it's egotistical for us to think.
Mhm.
I mean, there are things in the ocean that I think are undocumented that we don't know about because maybe they can't get down so deep to be able to investigate and learn whatever the species and genus and philo, whatever how you want to look at it. Why wouldn't there be, something on that level? I think that we're actually, and I don't know if this is, true for a lot of people, but from my perspective, I think people are like, yeah, great, UFOs, feed people. Yeah, great, UFOs. How about a living wage? Yeah, great. How about healthcare? Right? I think we're at that like the population's kind of like, okay,
Whatever.
like sure.
Yeah.
Now
Okay.
maybe 50 years ago, way, way different. Not even
Mm.
50 years ago, 25 years ago, I think it would have been way different.
Because you're not really seeing anyone react, are you? Everyone's like, yeah, okay.
And the reason why, as a society dealing with humanity and unity and community being disrupted, if people can't afford, if people can't have healthcare,
Yeah.
right? Like all of that, those are real issues. So in the healthcare industry, you triage the circumstance before you pick out what you're going to have for lunch from, the cafeteria.
Mm.
You have to triage the person before you figure out what their dietary plan is going to be. That to me is what I feel like is happening. Like we need to triage the planet in whatever ways that it,
Mm.
needs to be on a global scale.
Do you have future predictions?
Do I have future predictions? I'm not really a predictions kind of guy.
Mm,
I mean, I think I have projections, but I wouldn't say that they're prediction. I mean, you can call them predictions, but I don't really make them public.
yeah.
It's more of like more of a me thing.
Just kind of like a strong feeling about something.
Yeah, like I feel I hold out hope for humanity. I am a hopeful person,
Yeah.
and I don't fall into, and I won't fall into the zeitgeist of anger and hostility and triggering because to me it doesn't serve any purpose.
Mm.
So I will choose to be the level-headed person to acknowledge what's wrong, but I'm not going to run around like a chicken without my head, going, it's so triggering and because that's what I think people that are in charge want the masses to be.
100%.
Chaos, unorganized. And I'm like, no, boundary. I choose not to go there.
Block.
Nope,
Big
block.
block.
I choose not to go there. That doesn't mean that I don't recognize the severity of what's taking place.
Mm.
But everybody's got a bias, and everybody's bias is tied to where they're getting their information from. And I think that it's imperative for everybody that's watching this right now, and I use this at my events all the time. I will say, how many people have saw something, they've seen something on their phone, and they turn to the person next to them and go, "Is this real?" How many people? So, a handful of people will raise their hands in a room, and I'm like, you all need to have your hands raised. Because with the advent of AI and what's being put out, we have to question everything.
Mm.
So when people say, do you get tired of having to, defend? I go, I don't get tired of having to defend because I don't defend, but I will explain. I don't defend, but I will explain. And if you call yourself a medium, you have to explain and you have to be held to a certain standard regarding information and validation. It can't just be like, well, I'm a medium and here's the philosophy and mommy's okay. No, it's got to be, it's got to be backed up.
Oh, yeah, because there's this rise of TikTok psychics and mediums and healers, and I always look at everything. I mean, I feel that the spiritual industry can be really confusing because there's so many people out there with different voices and different opinions. And we get listeners saying this all the time. How the hell do you know who to trust? What's your advice on that?
Well, my advice is the person giving information and validating information that is helpful and healing in a non-egotistical teaching way. Simple, done. If it's my way or the highway, or you have to do it like this, or you can't do it like that, like not everybody's gonna like when somebody comes up to me, they go, like, I read like you read. And I go, no, you don't. You read like you read. You read like you read. I read like I read. We have different frames of references. So, and then you on social media, people want to like create teams, right? There's like teams like, well, don't you feel this way? Well, apparently you want me to because you're formulating your question in a way that's kind of like leading me that I'm gonna either agree with you or not agree with you. And I'm like, I am not the judge and jury when it comes to mediumship. I am only responsible for driving my car. Hard pass. Like, don't want to get pulled into that block.
Yeah.
And then when Crossing Overs on TV, there were a number of other, let's say psychics, mediums, whatever. Some were on talk shows, some were doing their own shows. And I remember there was a big meeting and like they were like, okay, so this is going to be our competition. And I remember sitting in the room going,
Oh.
guys, what are we competing over? Like, whose client had a better death? Like,
Oh,
let's think. So the same thing when it comes to like the Facebook, social media, TikToks, Instagrams, like YouTube, like when people are, in this space, it's still got to be about grief, empowerment, healing, not about the practitioner. So if it's about the practitioner in any way, I would avoid.
Mm. You travel everywhere and do shows everywhere. And I always watch your schedule and I think, my goodness, you're flying into Australia, you're doing all of these interviews, and then you're back at the end of the year and you start your tour. And then you go into another country and you're in the US. How do you do that? First of all, like, have you decided it's going to be a set amount of years and I'm going to just, go and support and help as many people as I can in that time? Or what
So
is
there's a couple of answers to that. And one of the answers is that my guides told me that as long as I'm physically able, that I have to do that. And so it's part of my, like, even if I didn't want to, I think I kind of have to do it, but I do want to. But there was a moment, I don't remember exactly what the years were, but there was a moment where I decided I didn't want to tour as much
Mm.
because my kids were young. So I said, I'm going to just pick like 5 or 6 cities. So I picked 5 or 6 cities
Yeah.
and I put multiple events on in that year for 5 or 6 cities
Mm.
at different times and nothing sold.
Oh, wow.
Like nothing sold.
What?
And I had this moment of, well, that doesn't make sense because I have a really ardent like client base and they can't get in to see me privately because the list was really, really long at the time. I'm like, this is kind of weird. Like, let me check with the ticketing company and make sure like these like there must be there must be broken links on the website, right? And I explored all the logic first,
Yeah.
and then there's Sandra, and she's like kind of making a Sandra face, and I'm like, what? She's like, well, who do you think you are? And I went, what do you mean? She's like, what do you think you are, Celine Dion? You're gonna do like a residency in like L.A. and Vegas and New York, and she was like, John, you have to go where the people are. She goes, you have to go where people are grieving. You can't expect grieving people to come and find you. And there have been a number of moments where Sandra has Sandra me, where there's been that moment where it was like, that should have been my answer, right? Like I should have known that. Like
Yes.
I should have been the one to realize that. But
Wow.
my ego got in the way of that because I was like, no, I don't want to travel like that. I want to be home with my kids.
Mm.
And then I remember being in the shower meditating and I had this overwhelming reality. Oh, I can get emotional. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ooh, you did that. That came out of nowhere.
The best type. The best type.
I get a chance to go home to my kids.
Yeah.
So many people don't.
Oh,
So for that, I get on a plane.
yeah. Wow, John. I mean,
Look at you turning into Barbara Walters over here, making me cry.
look at that. Yeah, I mean, it's such an important thing to think, though, isn't it? Because it's true. It's that we all have our life, and we're still here, and we take advantage of every last moment of every possible thing that we can do, and especially you, who had been put on this planet to go and make such a difference for everyone.
That's my goal. My mom used to say to me, if in your lifetime you can help one person with your ability, then it's all worth it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So, John, this is going to your book again. There is this moment in there before September 11th
Mm-hmm.
that you describe feeling from nowhere a deep, unsettling feeling, and you can't put your finger on why that's happening. Almost like a sense of like something's going to happen, not a good, more negative than obviously positive. Can you share about that? Because it was a
Sure.
very interesting sequence of events, this one.
So the competition that I originally met my wife at had moved from Long Island to Manhattan and was happening at the Marriott World Trade Center in August of 2001. I was there and I received a phone call. I couldn't hear because of the music. So I stepped out of the ballroom into the kind of like the hallway. I still couldn't hear. So I walked into the Trade Center lobby and I finished my call. It was a high school friend. And when I clicked the phone shut, it literally was like out of a horror movie for me. You know, like when they do that horror movie shot where the camera angles like spins really, really quickly. The room spun really, really quickly for me, and it was empty. There was nobody in there. But I had this overwhelming feeling of negativity and like darkness and like literally like evil and like death, like violence. It felt like violence to me. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, there's gonna be, because it's America, so I'm like, oh my God, there's gonna be a massive shooting here. Or there's something's happening.
Yeah.
I didn't know to the magnitude that something was gonna be, but I knew something was happening. And in true me fashion, I ran right into the ballroom and Sandra's in the middle of like, trying to be an administrator and working. And she's like, this competition's happening. I'm like, you need to move the competition. And she was like, what? I was like, how long is the contract here for? She's like, I don't know, 7 years. I go, you can't be here next year. She's like, can we talk about this later? And I'm like, no, you need to figure out how to get this competition out of this building. It can't stay here. You're going to have to go someplace else. And she said, well, that's not my job. She goes, that's the owner of the competition's job. She goes, and can we talk about this later? Because she was literally bombarded with everything. But I just like, I had to get it out. It was like,
Yeah.
literally like doing a reading. Like, I have to say this. And that was in August of 2001. And then in the next month, we know what took place. And that was a very, very overwhelming feeling. But that coupled with starting in June, I lost a really close friend in June. And from June to July into August to September, I was like descending into what I can only describe as this deep, dark doom and gloom feeling, to the point that Sandra asked me to go to a counselor because she said, maybe you're like one of those people. And I said, one of what people? She goes, people who can't handle success. She goes, you have a successful international television show. You have a book on the New York Times bestseller list, both nonfiction and fiction simultaneously. She goes, and this is you. What is going on here? And I'm like, I don't, maybe. And then I thought it was maybe my friend, Shelley's passing. And that feeling lifted on September 10th, 2001. Literally, it was like
Oh, I've got a shiver.
September 10th, it was completely gone.
God. When you heard that news, what went through your head?
When I heard that news, well, what went through my head was the night that it happened. So I was booked on Larry King Live
Yeah.
on September 10th, and I did not want to fly out to California to do it. I want to do it from New York via satellite, like I had done before.
Mm.
Larry King insisted that I am in studio, and Larry was very, very good to me. He had me on the show like 5 or 6 times, and the producer's like, Larry wants you in studio. You're flying to LA. So I flew to LA, and when when I did the show, most of the time when you did Larry's show, it was kind of like a marathon. It's like reading, 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 you know, and not like in-depth reading. Like, he
Full
was
on.
very, very full on. Exactly. That night was different. That night he talked about grief. That night he talked about loss. It was a very different show. So much so that when the show was over, I like looked at him and I went, Larry, you have no idea what you did tonight. And he looked at me like I was crazy. He was like, what? And I go, you have no idea how you help people tonight. I had no idea how he helped people that night, because some of the people that passed in that building, the last thing they watched was that episode.
Oh my God.
And I'm not talking like 1 or 2 people. I'm talking like a lot of conversations have came about that, that was the last thing my husband and I watched. That was the last thing my family and I watched. That was the last thing that we watched, because it would be broadcast at 9 p.m. in New York, and then midnight they would repeat it again. So if they didn't catch it at 9, you can catch it at 12. So a lot of people watched that episode. When the show was over, he asked me to talk to his wife, Sean. I talked to Sean and I said, Sean, I need you to do me a favor. Tonight, when he's home and he's relaxed, I really need you to let him know, wow, he has no idea what he did tonight to help people navigate grief. And this is clearly before it happened. And when I was being picked up from the hotel to be taken to the studio, the woman who picked me up said to me, are you okay? And I said, yes, why? And she goes, you don't feel okay. I went, I don't feel okay. She goes, mm-mm. She goes, you don't feel good. She goes, you feel like you're not okay. She's like, do we need to not go here? I was like, no, I'm good. And then she goes, then you tell me what's going on with you. And I literally, like, she was a priest. I like just vomited like all this information to her. And we had a great conversation. We talked about like, cake and fast food cakes, and she distracted me. And then when I was done, I got in the car and she starts driving and she says, you're better. I was like, what? She goes, you feel better. I was like, I do feel better. I was like, I don't know. Maybe I was just nervous about doing Larry King. I go, which makes absolutely no sense because I'm hosting my own show. Like,
Yeah.
I can do, it's like, I don't know, but I noticeably was different. So that's me now trying to figure out, like, why am I different? Why am I different? Couldn't figure it out. There was no reason. So I go to bed and I get woken up by the front desk. Mr. Edward, are you okay? I'm like, yes. Why? And I'm thinking, I'm a New Yorker. I'm in California. Earthquake? Did I sleep through an earthquake? Like, what's going on? And they said, there's a 911 call emanating from your room. And I said, well, it's not me. I'm totally fine. Maybe you go, somebody else needs help. Like, call a different room. And they said, no, it's coming from your room. And I was in a one bedroom, and the bedroom door was locked. I went, well, hold on a second. So I like popped my head out, making sure like I am alone in the like I'm alone. I checked all the doors are locked. There's nobody in. I'm fine. I go back to the person at the front desk and I said, guys, somebody else may be in trouble. I go, it's not me. I'm good. So I go back to bed, and then I was woken up by Paul Shabelson, who was the executive producer of Crossing Over, screaming into my phone, we're under attack. We're under attack. We're under attack. And then when I went downstairs, because I like validation, I wanted to make sure I wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
I said, so if there was an emergency and I called 911 from my room, which police station would it go to? And the day manager said it wouldn't go to any police station. It would come here first. I said, oh. can you check my room and see if there was a 911 call that was made last night? He goes, why, were you okay? I said, I was totally fine. He checks. There was a 911 call made from my room. I did not make it. I did not make that call. Did not happen.
Wow. I mean, that's crazy.
Yep.
Is your belief looking back at that, you know, the other side just steps in and coordinates all of that series of events?
I think so.
Yeah.
Now, here's the cool button for your story. Are you ready?
Yes.
When we were doing the book tour for Chasing Evil and we were doing podcasts, Bob was out in California and Bob got picked up and taken to a podcast to go do this podcast that I was going to eventually go on later on that day. And the driver said to him, what are you doing? Oh, it's a book. What kind of book? Oh, I'm an ex-FBI agent and I'm working with a psychic. And she goes, the psychic? It was the same driver.
No. Oh my goodness.
25 years later, she picked him up and started telling him that same story. How cool is that?
Wow, that is so cool. Oh my goodness. And I know that you are here and you are going everywhere around Australia again at the end of this
I
year,
am. I look forward to it.
which I am so excited about. And I know that lots of our listeners always are ready and waiting to buy tickets. And they're now on sale. So
They are.
if you're listening, all the ticket links are going to be in our bio as well. So, John, I follow you and all that you do. And as well as all the tours and everything else, you have Evolve Plus. And I really think there's going to be a lot of people that would love to know more because they want to get to know you a little bit better and actually see all of the stuff you do because you do lots of things on them.
I do. So one of the things that I wanted to do was teach more on television, and television was never going to let me do that. So I left television and I created something called evolveplus.tv. And if folks go there, it's an actual platform. It's a community of people that come together that are looking to evolve and be empowered. And there's different verified creators. So you have astrologers, numerologists, mediums like myself, past life regressionists, and we all go live.
Wow.
So every week there are a number of lives. We were about 20 to 30 live streams a month where it's very, very interactive, where people get pulled up, where they can ask a question, people can get pulled up and they can be read. So for folks that like this subject matter, I would love for them to check out evolveplus.tv. And if they go to the website, I'm probably gonna get in trouble with this, but if they go to the website, if they use the code New Moon, it'll give them an entire year for like $99.
Okay, I know what I'm doing in a few minutes' time there. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Yeah, please, everyone, check it out. We'll put all of the links to
Thank
Evolve
you.
Plus as well in the show
Thank you.
notes. John Edward, keep doing what you do in the world.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure to have you back. I hope you come
Thank
back
you.
again very soon. Thank you.
If you have enjoyed this episode or are a die-hard fan of the show, make sure to subscribe right now so you don't miss out on future episodes. And to share the love, you can give us an awesome 5-star review.
Help us create a world that is spiritual as fuck.